Hey, today we're going to talk about acrylamide. And what I'm really talking about here is, when you're reading the news and there's like some kind of cancer scare, or you see that there's like something that causes cancer or something that's dangerous for your health, right? And you start seeing this in the news and you think, what should I do about this? A lot of things that you read about these days, you're not sure. Right? You're just not sure. You read different websites, they say different things, and different doctors say different things. Anybody who believes everything that every doctor says is out of his mind, right? So it's like, how do you? And obviously, there's very, very good people out there who give good information. So how do you see through the complex things? And I'm going to go with this is kind of like my journey with acrylamide, and I started to read about this chemical in 2002, when there was a Swedish study that said that at the time the first study was, if I remember correctly, was basically when you heat bread, when you make bread, bake bread, it produces the heating of the carbohydrate of the wheat, getting that hot creates a chemical called acrylamide, and that is cancer causing. And so what they were recommending in the article, the story was, basically avoid bread and then anything that's a carbohydrate heated at a high temperature, right? So it's like everything, right? So basically you're talking about bread, rice, biscuits, chips, French fries, breakfast cereals, so many things. And, the first thing I read that article, and I read a lot. One thing about being MGTOW is that you have a lot of free time. And it's nice when you have a free life. I've been free my whole life, and I've had a lot more time than the average guy. Most of my friends were very, very busy. My life, I've been producing for myself, and I have a shit ton of time, and I use that time to study things that are important to me. So if I come across something that's kind of complex or difficult, most people, when they're busy, they just don't have time, right? It's like no time. But for me, I do have time. And I don't waste time watching TV. I don't own a TV. And so I have a lot of time to read any kind of health reports, anything that I think is going to be really important for me. I will study the shit out of it. And if something's complex, I don't complain. So for example, some people will say, I read this report. They said cancer is dangerous. And then somebody else said, coffee is dangerous. And somebody else said it's not dangerous. So, you can't believe anything they say. That's not true. If you're an intelligent man, and you have free time, which, MGTOWs tend to have more free time, right? You've made better choices. You have more free time. And so you can choose where to use your time. And I think amassing wealth, travel, and your health are a very good use of time. So even if something is a bit complex, I will dig into it if I think it looks like it's important. And as soon as I read this report, it sounded very important to me. I was like, it caught my eye because I was like, wait a second. This is the kind of thing, like, it's terrible news, like society. Basically, people are idiots. They can't change. People are fucking idiots. You tell people that, bread causes cancer, they're like, they don't even, like, think about changing. They're like, how could I change? Like, I eat bread every day. I like sandwiches. I don't think that way. Every day I wake up, honest to God, I wake up and say, if I find out that something is one way and I thought it was another way, I'm going to change my whole life. That's the way I live my life. I'm ready to fucking change today. If I find out something new, I'm going to change my whole life. It's not a problem. I'm going to change. There's no time, for me, there's no reason to sit around. If I see something's obvious, it might look a little dismal in the beginning, but I know the way things are is that often they seem difficult in the beginning and they get easier as you go. So I'm not afraid of any truth and I'm not afraid of any change. So when someone says something, it seems true, I will research that. And I will seriously make changes. So this acrylamide warning and this report was very much like that. I was thinking, this looks like a real one. And I thought to myself, I talked to a lot of my friends about acrylamide back in 2002. And in fact, over the years, I've talked about acrylamide a lot. Nobody gave a fuck. Nobody talked about it. Suddenly, boom, last week, a judge declared that Starbucks in California has to declare that coffee is cancer causing in all the Starbucks, right? And it's because of acrylamide. And so suddenly it's back on the radar. And so now everybody's talking about acrylamide. And I just wanted to go over it because I've been following this longer than most people. And I wanted to say how I read the news and how I read through the news and how I react when I see something, right? Because it's not easy, right? It's easy to be a psycho, right? It's very easy to be a psycho. You know, you say, oh, I don't do this. And then you just like, no matter if you piss everybody off, you just do it. For me, I'm always looking for it's almost like I'm trying to kill like 10 birds with one stone every time, right? I'm trying to like, you know, not get cancer, but I'm also trying to get healthier food, more convenient, saves me more time, makes me feel better, which makes me do this better and be in, you know, I'm in better moods. And then, you know, it's more convenient to eat. You know, I'm trying to think of something that solves everything, you know. I think that way, you know, I don't mind. It's fine. If I don't find that many solutions, I find a few, right? And that's enough for me. It makes me happy, right? So when I saw this, I thought, okay, I'm willing to give up bread and oatmeal and French fries and everything. So here's what I did. This is the way I think about it. I said, okay, when you heat, carbohydrates causes cancer. It creates acrylamide. Acrylamide is acryl, which is like a plastic. You know, it's not good, right? You don't want to have a plastic in your body. Now there's a lot of, you know, plastic bottles deteriorate into water. And every day we apparently eat like 150 pieces of plastic. Most of it from the air, from the dust. Dust flows around in your house, and a lot of that is plastic particles that lands on your food. So most plastic that you eat that affects your sperm, you know, the wood, is from the air. That's what they found, the latest study. But either way, so I was like, okay, what acrylamide doesn't sound good, plastic doesn't sound good, I don't want that. But at the same time, I want to be normal. I want to have a good life, right? Simple life. I'm not out to be a psycho. So how can I mitigate this risk? How can I read through the news? How can I make proactive changes without being so radical? Because it hasn't been concretely proven 100% that it causes cancer. So I'm like, okay, so how do I manage this, you know? And I want to say, too, that this process of understanding one more thing about life gives me enormous satisfaction. It does. Every single time. It gives me satisfaction that I know that I have the balls to make changes. Because I look around me, most people can't fucking change. They just can't. You tell them something, you tell them that they keep smoking, they're going to get cancer. They can't change. I change. I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm done with this. You know, I'm done with this. I'm going to move on. And I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I'm going to figure it out, right? So, and that gives me satisfaction. So let's go into this thing the way I looked at it. I'll make this a quick one. But, okay, so coffee, I'm reading here, it's acrylamide. And what it is when you roast the beans, okay, acrylamide is formed in the very beginning of the roasting process. So the beans are raw, they're like green, and then they roast them to make coffee and they become a dark brown, right? Or a blackish brown. And so acrylamide is formed in the very beginning of the roasting process when it's not even brown yet. So the acrylamide, that's the bad news because acrylamide's already there. You can't like roast the beans less and have less acrylamide. As soon as you start roasting, basically the acrylamide is formed. So, okay, that's not good. There is good news though, because when you deep dark roast a bean, acrylamide's formed in the beginning, but as you roast longer and longer, acrylamide starts to break down. So a darker roast coffee has less acrylamide than a lighter roast. Okay, so immediately I say, okay, that's a simple thing. So I'm not sure if acrylamide causes cancer. A lot of people are saying it does. Okay, at the same time, I'm looking for the smartest thing, the Ronin man fucking solution. So I say, okay, if there's less acrylamide in a dark bean, I'm going to buy dark from now on. It's that simple because it's the same price, and it's easy. So it's a smart solution. I'm going to lower my acrylamide because I'm not going to give up coffee because I don't know yet it causes I'm not 100%. I've never read that coffee is a complex. That's the other thing. Acrylamide in bread might cause cancer and coffee might not because coffee might have other properties that decrease cancer, right? So there's two things. There's acrylamide and there's coffee. Coffee is a chemical concoction at the end, right? So I was like, okay, I'll switch over to lighter or darker roast. Done, right? Okay, next thing. How can I limit my acrylamide? Now again, I'm still saying that it might not cause cancer, but I'm still thinking in my mind, if there's something I can get rid of that I wanted to get rid of anyway, or that I didn't like or wasn't good for me, I'm just looking for an excuse. It's kind of like Clint Eastwood, make my day punk. If there's some food like that, I'm going to take that out because it doesn't matter. I'm going to take it out because I don't want it anyway. But I didn't have quite the oomph, the motivation to go fucking get rid of it. So, okay, next thing is chips. Okay, I'll never eat another chip. I stopped eating chips completely in 2002. No fucking chips since then. French fries. No French fries. Fuck French fries. I do not eat French fries. If I go to a restaurant, someone has French fries. If I'm with a friend, I'll steal one French fry just to get the taste of a French fry. But I will not order French fries. I will not order a set. I will not order French fries. And the reason is because I know they're unhealthy. I know that there's a lot of bad fats in there. I know they use the oil for fucking 100 years. They keep using the same oil. So I don't like deep frying oil anyway. And now I find out that high heat potatoes creates acrylamide. So it's like everything bad. Final fucking nail in the coffin. No more French fries, okay? No more chips. That gets rid of most people's acrylamide. The like 40% of the daily consumption of acrylamide in most countries. Getting rid of like snacks, things like that, right? Next thing, I read that there's less acrylamide formed when you steam or boil something. Okay, and then it's more when you fry something or when you deep fry. There's more acrylamide. So I'm thinking, okay, what's an easy solution? Well, when I cook vegetables, I like to cook Chinese food. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start to steam. I'm going to start using more oil, more waters and less oils. I'm going to alter the way I cook just a little bit. And the reason why I'm going to do it, guys, the reason why is two reasons. One is because I know that oil is not good for me, right? A lot of oil. I like fresh oil, like a fresh coconut oil that's like not cooked, raw, fresh olive oil, like a really good quality olive oil. I can just drink it out of the bottle. It's awesome, right? Certain kind of oils are good. Oil is awesome, like avocado, the oil, and I eat avocado every day, right? I eat a lot of oily things, peanuts, nuts, avocados. I like coconuts. I like to buy a whole coconut and then eat the white part inside and drink the milk. So I do like the good fats. I love the good fats from fish and all that. But shitty fats from like French fries, it's like no. So when I said I will change the way I cook a little bit. So I'll just cut out the oil because of the two reasons. Again, acrylamide looks like it might be a cancer causer, and I know it's not good for me. You get fat from oils, and shitty oils are not good. Your body doesn't process them well. So I already know that. So I'm like, okay, that's enough for me. I'm going to start to cook with less oil and also more steaming, more boiling rather than, and I've already switched to dark roast because that's less acrylamide, right? So here we go. Another thing is, let's go here. Oh, let's see. This article was not that useful. Kind of a repeat of the other one. Here's another way how to avoid acrylamide. Let's see here. Yeah, same thing. Like the way of cooking. It says here blanch potatoes, but I don't do that because blanching potatoes, you basically peel them and cut them and then stick them in boiling water a little bit and then take them out and then fry them. But it's like a half-assed reason to make fries. Fries suck. They're bad for you. And they're hard to make too. And oil is a pain in the ass to deal with in your house. It's like I don't want to like buy a bunch of oil and then heat it up to boiling and then stick stuff in it. It pops all over the fucking stove and it's disgusting. So, okay, not going to do that. So I don't need to blanch. So I'm going to cut that way of getting acrylamide out. But also when you cook your own food, you're going to tend to get less acrylamide because of the way you cook at home as opposed to the way that the restaurants cook. So that's simple. Okay, eat more stuff at home. I like to eat at home. I like to make my own food. That doesn't bother me. In fact, I often will, if I'm going out to eat with a bunch of friends, I will often eat at home. I'll make some healthy food before I leave, some fish, some vegetables, some good stuff, sweet potatoes, and then I will go out. And then if I'm still hungry, I will eat a meal. But usually what happens when I go out is I'll just say, fuck it, I'll just get some ice cream or something, right? I've already had my good food. That's what I try to do. Not every time, but I try to do that. Unless it's a very special restaurant where I really do want to eat that food, right? So that's what I do. I just kind of like hedge my bets. I read enough that I can figure out what's going on. Oh, here's another thing you can do. Acrylamide is formed when bread turns brown. So when you put the bread in the toaster, all you're doing is making acrylamide like crazy. You've already made acrylamide when you made the bread, when you baked the bread. But now when you toast it, it's like acrylamide like crazy. So here's the way I think about it. If I'm going to eat toast, let's say I'm starving to death, I'm in a restaurant, and there's 2 pieces of toast. One is darker, one's lighter. I'm going to pick the lighter one, right? Again, don't be a psycho. Live a normal life. You're just making the smartest decisions based on what's in front of you that you can have a good life, without being a psycho. So it's like, yeah, lighter bread, okay, fine. And then they say, would you like to toast your bread at, say, Subway sandwiches? I'll say, no, please don't, because that saves me right there. Fine, right? Maybe it's not as good as toasted, whatever. It's in my stomach, tastes good. And I'm not getting cancer. Cancer is not a good feeling, apparently, especially stomach cancer. Bowel cancer, stomach cancer, these are some of the more painful cancers. Some cancers are not so painful. Other cancers are super painful. Stomach cancer is like one of the worst ones. So I just think of that, like little things like, okay, let's not toast the bread, right? Let's not deep fry. Let's not fry at high temperatures. Let's try to use more water. And of course, just eat better food. But one thing I don't like is they always tell you like, eat a balanced diet. It's like, I don't need any nanny advice. I already have a good life. I already eat good food. But I want to know very clear, maybe the reason why they would squash research on acrylamide is because every restaurant basically cheats, and most calories are carbohydrates, and that way it's cheap to make carbohydrates, and that's why restaurants love carbohydrates. They'll have a little steak and they'll have a big potato, a bunch of bread, and a bunch of filling carbohydrates that's super cheap that can fill you up so you feel full, rather than giving you a twice as big a steak, which costs them a lot of money. So restaurants are basically, they're not on your side on this one. So it's another reason to eat at home, cook your own food, like that. I wanted to say here is some of the foods are recommended by these different associations. Okay, so like the American Diabetes Association, the American Heart Association, Susan G. Komen Association, American Cancer. But if you look at this graphic, these are the companies that donate money, give money to the studies of these organizations, right? This is from a video, What the Health. So you have to be careful these days. These organizations used to be trustworthy. Now, it's not that they're not trustworthy completely, but you have to think twice because they need money, and the money comes from companies that should be under investigation instead are sponsoring the American Cancer Society, right? So that's not good, right? That's something that you want to keep you want to look at, think twice about, right? So here we go. Here's the last graphic I get here is the top brands tested for acrylamide, which was pretty incredible. There's a baby formula called Cow and Gate. Cow and Gate's Sunny Start Baby Wheat Flakes. And it's pretty evil because there's the happy picture of the baby. And this has like massive acrylamide in it. So here we go. Again, it's mostly chips. It's mostly cereal. These are easy things to get rid of. Things that you'd want to get rid of anyway if you're trying to eat healthy. And there's nothing too surprising here. Wheat germ crackers, biscuits, ginger biscuits, puffed wheat, golden puffs, wheat and bran flakes, chunky chips, chunk organic straight cut oven chips. Now there's one that you should think about is, interestingly enough, is you want to skip chips, right? Because that's acrylamide central. Because you got this super thin carbohydrate cooked both sides super hot, all the way through super fast and super long, and it cooks the shit out of it, right? That's why it's crispy, right? That is going to be acrylamide like crazy. Now, what a lot of people do is they eat baked chips instead of fried chips. And they think, oh, that covers everything. I'm fine. Well, baked chips apparently are cooked at a higher temperature. They have to, the technology. And so they have even higher acrylamide. So basically, if you want a simple way to think about this, is just skip chips. Never eat chips again. You don't need chips. They're not good for you. They're fattening. They're bad for your heart. They're bad for everything, your blood pressure. And now we find out that very likely acrylamide causes cancer. And I just want to say that this is no joke. This is not some minor scare. Cancer is a big problem with modern society, and nobody really knows where it comes from. Honestly, you can talk to the smartest guy in the world. I'm not a doctor, right? This is not medical advice. But what I'm saying is, like, you're not a doctor either, probably, right? But you have to figure fucking life out, and you got to eat some shit, and you want to be healthy. So that's what a lot of modern life is. It's not about finding the ultimate person that knows everything, because there's nobody that knows. Nobody knows why cancer is so big. Nobody fucking knows. Everybody's guessing, but you want to do the most intelligent guess for you and the people you care about, right? That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do the most intelligent guess I can without, obviously getting too psycho about it, and then just moving on. It's like it's a clear thing in my mind. No fucking chips, right? No fucking French fries. Boom, right? I know the TV's got a bunch of bullshit on it. No TV, right? These things save me a lot of time because I don't have to always every day look at it and think, I got these chips in my cabinet. Should I eat them? I'm hungry. It's easy. There's no chips in my cabinet, right? It's simple. These are the kind of things that make your life better. These kind of rules, these kind of understanding of things, right? Now, breakfast cereal, I cut out breakfast cereal long ago. And the last thing I'll say is I do like oatmeal. So what I do with oatmeal, I think oatmeal is one of the finest carbohydrates out there. What I do is I buy oatmeal and I try to buy it as rough as I can. I like steel cut oats and things like that. And I will take them and I try to, ever since 2002, believe it or not, this is the truth. I read this first report. I'm like, that fucking sounds real. And so I stopped heating oatmeal so much. I tried to make it just as long as I can. So for example, let's say most people, what they'll do is they'll heat up water and they'll throw in the oatmeal and they'll cook it as long as they want to. And they'll take it out and then it'll be sitting there baking hot, still cooking. What I'll do is I'll take the thing and I'll pour cold milk in it. And then I'll let it sit there. And first thing is I'll have as rough oatmeal as possible. The reason why is because oatmeal is already cooked. I don't know if you realize that. Oatmeal, especially quick oats, they're already fucking cooked. There's already acrylamide in there. So you want to go the most basic oats. Anytime you go the most basic carbohydrate, you're always going to get the most fiber. You're going to be the most full. You're going to have the lowest blood pressure. Blood sugar spike. Everything is good when you go to more rough. And what's funny is often oatmeal that's like the roughest oatmeal sometimes has a little bit of like sanded and stuff, but it is the cheapest too, and it's the best too. It's the best for you. So I'll take the most basic oats that I can get without being psycho again. So I'll go to the store. What's the simplest one they have? The roughest looking one. Right. Then I'll take milk and I'll pour it in there and I'll let it sit in there for like, say, 5 minutes while I'm, drinking my coffee or whatever. And then I'll try to eat it. And if it's soft enough to eat, that's it. That's my new thing. That brand, milk, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. And then I don't even have to cook it at all. And it saves me time and don't have to use the gas on the stove and don't need to clean the pot. I just pour it in a cup, pour it in a bowl. I'm done. Right. These are the type of Ronin Man solutions that I like. It just keeps it more simple, more healthy, and also it's in my mind. It's like a muscle. Is if you don't care about your life, if you don't care about this, you don't care about that, and then you don't care about this. It gets worse and worse and worse. It's like lifting weights, right? If you don't care about your health, you get fatter and fatter and fatter. You get more unhealthy. Pretty soon you have all kinds of issues, right? And it just gets worse and worse. So what you want to do is the opposite, where you're working on yourself. You're like, this is not easy, but I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this, even though it's not easy. And then you have two things happen. One is you get more healthier, but the other thing is the muscle that you're using, the kind of self-discipline muscle, is getting stronger, which is going to make you more healthy in 100 other ways, right? So that's kind of what I use for these things. I always kind of, whenever I do the oatmeal thing, once in a while I'll just kind of pat myself on the back for doing that, because it's like a secret thing I could do. Like I could be at some friend's house and they're all cooking food the way they want, and I'll just be secretly doing it my own way to keep down whatever I think is unhealthy. And at the same time, like I said, without having to buy any crazy special food or wait 3 weeks in the mail for something from Zimbabwe or something. It's like I can get stuff around me that's healthy and simple and like that. And I guess I should add one last thing about fruits. A lot of people freak out about pesticides. And so I did a lot of research on pesticides, and I found out some very interesting things. One is, let's say potatoes, they're underground. There's no pesticides. Nobody sprays pesticides into the dirt to get underground to those potatoes. So there's no pesticides. So you don't need organic. They are organic already, right? So if you buy organic potatoes, you're fucking wasting your money, right? Next thing, anything with a thick skin, watermelon, the pesticide's going to be in the what's that called? The rind, right? So a grapefruit is thick. I'm looking at a grapefruit now. So you're going to have the pesticides on the outside. So when you peel it, anything that you peel is going to be, basically you don't need organic. Okay. Next thing. So a banana, you peel it, right? Now there's going to be some kind of micro whatever inside, but these are the type of things that basically jerk-offs think about. You know, their whole life is this big complex thing that they're scared of everything. You understand things. You understand that a potato has no pesticides. It's under fucking ground. It's like in a nuclear bunker, right? Just use your brain. Don't be afraid of using your brain, you know, with this kind of stuff. So then the only thing the thing that you really want to buy organic, really important, is things like milk. You don't want like a lot of hormones in milk, and like strawberries. You don't want to be eating like shitty strawberries because the skin is so thin and they're so sweet that the bugs love them. So to keep the bugs off of them, it's kind of like if you have a really tasty food and you got a dog. If you leave the food in the middle of the floor and you go to work, the dog is going to eat it, right? So what would you have to leave on the tasty food that the dog wants to eat, like a steak? What would you have to leave on it so that the dog would not eat it for the whole day, every day? You'd have to leave some pretty evil shit on it, right? Because otherwise the dog's going to go in there and eat it, right? You might even need some like loud noises or electric shocks or, you know, like poison. You know, basically it would all be not worth it because it's so hard to keep the dog away because the dog is just going to come in and eat it, right? So that's the problem with bugs and strawberries, right? So the only way you can get real organic strawberries is not from pesticides is when they use a special technology. So I've been to a lot of organic farms and they actually don't even grow them in dirt almost. There's like just a tiny bit of dirt on these little trays, and then they're under lights, and then they grow the strawberries. Now those strawberries, by the nature of their growing, they're going to be not pesticides because they don't even use pesticides in these greenhouses. So that's the kind of thing that you want to look for if you're going to eat those things that require that are sweet and thin skin and like that. This is the kind of thinking. It's kind of fun actually. Once you get into it, you kind of get good at it. You kind of get used to thinking like of simple things that make sense. And one last thing. I'm going to throw this one in there. Is a lot of flavorings and colorings are not good for you. In fact, flavorings and colorings are not good for you. Okay, none of them. If they were good, you can go to the chemical factory right now, buy a bunch of red color dye, and just start drinking it down in the morning. Why don't you do that? You don't do it because you know it's bad for you. You know that green dye is going to be shit for your body, right? So don't buy things that are dyed, right? So for example, if you put, let's say, low conditioner on your hair and it has colors in it, that's a dye. And if a lot of people don't realize that your skin is porous, so when you put LSD on your forehead and stuff, you get high because it goes through the skin, right? If you put it on your temples, right? So things go through your skin, right? That's why a policeman can overdose on fentanyl just by touching fentanyl on a table, right? He overdoses, it goes through his skin. So anything that you put on your skin, you may as well drink it. So if you can't drink something, you shouldn't be putting it on your skin because it's going straight into your body anyway. And it's not even going through your stomach. So it goes in more directly. It's like when you inject heroin, it's stronger than if you smoke it, right? It's stronger than if you eat marijuana. You know, if you inject something, it goes straight in, right? When it goes through your skin, it's injecting. It's missing all those ways of breaking it down. All the strong acids in your stomach are not destroying it, right? It's just going straight into the bloodstream, right? So when you buy something, like for example, for myself, I just have a bar of soap, I have clean, clear shampoo, and I have a razor. That's all I use. Sometimes I don't even have shampoo. Usually it's just a bar of soap. For years, I buy white soap with no flavor, no smell. It's just cheap as fuck. It's so cheap. And I learned that from my chemistry teacher. We made soap in chemistry class in high school, and he showed us a lump of this, and he said, you know, guys, this is soap here. What we just made here, this is soap. He said, everything in the store that's runs and liquidy, it's all chemicals. He says, if you want to clean your body and you want to be healthy, this is what you want to use. This is all you want to use. This is soap. Anything that's added to it is not making it better. It's making it worse. It's making it more dangerous and not good for you and doesn't clean as well, right? Soap is what you want. So I never forgot that. I was grateful for that teacher because it was a really simple thing. We just made it. I was looking at it on my table. I was like, fucking that's soap. No way. Because I go to the store, it's confusing. There's like 400 brands in there. And I think, I just want the white soap, as little, garbage as possible in there. And it turns out it's the cheapest thing too. So I can buy like 20 bars and then fucking last for 3 months, right? 4 months. So that's the way to think about health. Simple, find your rules, make your decisions, and go with the odds, and don't be psycho. That's the way I look at it. And it's fun. It's a game for me. It's a game. It's not a big deal. It's like when you don't waste your time doing stupid things like watching TV, okay? Or watching the latest, reading the latest political argument, right? And you think, wait, I'd like to improve my life. I have 15 minutes. What am I going to do? Tonight I'm going to sleep. I'm going to listen to something that's going to help me. Something that's going to make my life a little better, where I'm going to understand things. So if I read about acrylamide and I read that it's really complex and, like the beans, if it's dark roasted, it's better than light roasted. And, all of these things, it's like, okay, this might be difficult, right? Learning Chinese was difficult. I thought it was hopeless in the beginning, but I stuck with it and eventually I understood it. And with my health, I'm willing to be an idiot for a while. I'm willing to not have a simple answer. You don't need to give me bullet points, although I don't mind solid bullet points by an intelligent researcher. But at the same time, I realize a lot of things aren't like that. So this is something that I'm willing to put my horsepower, my brain horsepower into, because it's my body, and your body is that's life itself. You want to be healthy, right? So it's worth the effort. Yeah. Even if it's not easy, even if you start reading about acrylamide, you get more confused the first day. Hey man, life's long. You're like, hey, okay, I won't worry about it today. No problem. I don't know. This is more complex than I thought. Next time. Next time I see acrylamide, what is this thing? A little bit more. Okay, now I start to understand. Then, eventually you think, I think this one's real, I think I want to limit my acrylamide in my body just for the hell of it, And sometimes I'm wrong. Like I tried to limit mercury from fish. Now I don't think it's such a big deal because I haven't seen anybody who's had mercury poisoning from fish in my whole life. At my age, I've never seen one person with any damage from it. So I think, wait a second. And this is what you got to be careful of, is when you start hearing about all these health scares that you never see in real life. It's always this boogeyman who exists behind some, curtain, Anything like that, you start saying, wait a second, is this real? Is this just like some meme everybody's just repeating, Or is the risk so minuscule that I shouldn't be wasting my valuable time thinking about it, right? So that's what that's how I think about this health stuff. So I kind of wanted to do a health episode. It's not to give you perfect advice, but it's more like a way to think. It's like, it's like the Ronin man way to think about health. And if you have your little things that you do, like I got my little things I do, and put them in the comment box. I'd love to hear if you have an intelligent way to do something. One last thing. I'm going to do one little thing different that I used to do. I used to make, in China, I used to have a pressure cooker because my friend John, the guy I interview sometimes, in porn star John, he came to my house and lived in my house, and he taught me how to make some really good soups, German soups for the winter time. And I would make 3 kilograms, 6 pounds of soup, It was fucking awesome. I just eat it, had everything I needed. It was a full meal in a bowl. I thought that was great. So that was good. But the pressure cooker is at really intense heat. So recently I thought maybe there's a better way to make soup. So I started to boil beans and then let them sit for 2 days and then cook them. Perfect. So I use very little heat, and I use the soaking of the water in the bean to soften the bean, and they taste absolutely fantastic. In fact, I got to say that the beans end up tasting better and more silky when you do it that way than when you pressure cook it at 45 minutes. It's still cooked, but it's not quite, the beans aren't, the flavor of the beans and the kind of that slipperiness that comes off the bean into the water, that makes the soup kind of thick and rich. That part isn't really there. Whereas if you boil the beans, cover them up, let them cool, put them in the fridge, 2 days later, make your soup, they come out perfect. You use probably 1/100th of the heat. And so it's just another way to kind of hedge your bets, do things a little better, use your brain, And kind of, as I say, it's kind of my little game, right? How to be a little healthier, a little bit smarter with this, and do something. I think a lot of people, they just kind of like feel like they have no control of their life. And I think it's a big problem. I think this stuff matters. I swear, I think it matters. Is caring about your life and trying to improve in these little things. I think it fucking makes you feel good. It's like, yeah, I tried, I tried to improve myself. And I did, I didn't do that thing. And it makes you kind of like, yeah, because sometimes you got to pat yourself on the back. Life, sometimes people don't pat yourself on the back. Just pat yourself on the back. It's like, don't wait around. All right, guys. Ronin Man signing off. Thanks for subscribing and thanks for all your comments.